In this video, I am going to teach you how to round, so let's round. Many students struggle with rounding, and I think it's very important that you know your place values and you know what those words are and where they're located. And so I highly suggest that you take a moment and copy this chart down because it's going to be very useful as we go through some rounding examples. So in this example, we're going to round the decimal 9.4637 to the nearest tenth. So I've already placed those numbers in my chart, and that's going to help me with my rounding. And so first thing I need to do is to identify what number is in the tenths place, and that's going to be my 4, and I've highlighted it here. And then the next step is to actually locate the number to the right of that highlighted number, which would be the hundredths place, which is 6, and I have put an arrow underneath it. And now to my rounding rules. So if the number to the right of the highlighted number, which has that arrow under it, if it is less than 5, so if it's 0, 1, 2, 3, or 4, then the highlighted number is going to stay the same. If it is 5 or greater, so if it's 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9, then the highlighted number will increase by 1. So since my number that is above the arrow is a 6, that means my 4 is going to turn into a 5 because 4 plus 1 is 5. So my answer is going to be 9.5, and that would be rounded to the nearest tenth place, so one place after the decimal. So let's look at another example. I have 11.3222, and I want to round to the nearest hundredth, so I've already placed it in my chart, and I need to locate where the hundredth place is, and so I've highlighted it here. And then I need to also locate the number that's to the right of that highlighted number, which is going to be a 2. And looking at my rounding rules, since that number that is above the arrow is a 2, and that's less than 5, then my highlighted number 2 is going to end up staying the same. And so my final answer is going to be 11.32. Okay, let's look at a harder example. We're going to be rounding to the nearest hundredth place again. We have 15.9974, and so I'm going to locate the hundredths place, which is a 9, and I'm going to look at the number to the right of it, which is a 7. And so following my rounding rules, since it is a 7 that's greater than 5, then my number 9 is going to increase by 1. And so when I add 1 to 9, I actually get a 10. And so I'm going to put a 0 in for my hundredths place value, and then I got to carry that 1 into my tenths place, and then I'm going to do 9 plus 1 again, and that's going to give me another 10, but I have to put a 0 for the place value for my tenths place, and I'm going to be carrying that 1 to the ones place, and so now I have 5 plus 1, and that's going to give me 6, and so my final answer here is going to be 16.00, and that's going to be rounded to the nearest hundredths place. The same rules are going to apply if we are not rounding decimals, if we're going to round to like the nearest 10. So we have 6,592 and we want to round to the nearest 10 spot. So we're going to locate what number would be in the tens place, and that would be a 9. And then we got to look to the right of it, which is a 2. The same rounding rules are going to apply. Since 2 is less than 5, then my 9 is going to stay the same. And then what's I'm going to do here is then put a placeholder 0 in for my ones spot. And so my final answer is going to be 6,590. So let's look at a number that we are going to round to the nearest 10 again, but this time it does contain decimals. And so we're still going to locate the 10 spot, which is the 4, and we're going to look to the right of it, which is a 6. And so since that number is greater than 5, then my highlighted 4 is going to increase by 1. And so my answer is going to be 8,950. I'm still going to put a placeholder 0 for the ones, but it's important to note that you do not include any of the rest of the numbers or the decimal in this answer, since we are rounding to the nearest 10. So let's look at a larger number. We're going to round to the nearest 1,000. So we're going to locate the number that's in the thousands place, which is 6. and I know it's kind of hard, it sounds like thousandths, but it's the thousands place. And so we look to the right, it's a 0. And so since that 0 is less than 5, then my highlighted number is going to stay the same. And so I'm going to put my placeholder zeros for the hundreds, the tens, and the ones, and I'm not going to include that decimal point or any numbers after the decimal. And so my final answer is going to be 286,000.